Hey, welcome to this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies for Some Places, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And while we're at it, my pronouns are he, him.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living, and my pronouns are he, him.
My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Yeah, you are.
Woohoo!
And thank you for putting your pronouns in earlier so that you didn't make me affirm them with my yeah, you are.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you.
I do what I can.
Yeah. So, as per usual, we're going to be talking about the movies. But before we get into our regular stuff, we wanted to mention that over on the Patreon this week, the exclusive bonus audio is the result of your poll voting, listeners. And we are talking about The Miseducation of Cameron Post, starring Chloe Grace Moritz, about a young woman who is sent to a conversion camp. This is Pride Month after all. So please, if you are not a patron, considering becoming one, going to listen to that conversation. We had a great time talking about it. And it's a very powerful movie. On the regular show, though, today, that is, we're talking about Zola, I Carry You With Me, F9, which, yes, is the new Fast and Furious movie, and then Werewolves Within. I like the alliteration of that. Werewolves Within.
Yeah.
In my best announcer voice.
Yeah, but it's not as existential as it's seeming based on the title.
That's true. Yeah. It's more of a whodunit. But we'll get to that in a minute. It's not like, is there a werewolf? It's not like the Jack Nicholson movie Wolf, but we'll get to that later. I think we wanted to kick things off this week with Zola. Yeah, so we saw that. Megan and I saw that.
We did.
And here is I swear to God, this is the one-line IMDb summary. A stripper named Zola embarks on a wild road trip to Florida. While technically true, boy, does that leave
correct.
Boy, does that leave a lot out.
That's a bare bones summary.
Yeah, bare bones,
yes.
Definitely. So anyway, this is the first movie I think ever based on a series of tweets, and also an article in Rolling Stone, but it began with a series of tweets. It stars Taylor Page as Zola and Riley Keough as, I think her name in the movie is Stephanie, though that's not who she is in real life. But so it's about this, Zola works as a waitress. She also is a stripper, because that's the word they use in the movie. And she meets Stephanie, Riley Keough, and Stephanie calls her up and says, "Hey, I'm going to Florida to this club where we can make a lot of money that I know about." And so Zola goes with her, and wacky things ensue, including, it turns out, maybe to be like a sex trafficking ring they get involved in. Would you call it sex trafficking? I mean, what would you call it, Megan?
I mean, yeah, I would. My immediate reaction is no, but at the same time, there's definite coercion going on. Yeah. So yeah, it could certainly be called that. But Zola thinks that it's just to go to strip clubs to just pole dance and that's it.
Right.
And that is not the plan. The plan is to engage in full on sex work. And I say full on because stripping, some people consider sex work. Some strippers call themselves sex workers. So, but yes, we're talking about actual sex.
Right.
No holds barred.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Stephanie is down for that, but Zola is not. And Zola makes that abundantly clear over and over and over again that that is not what she does. She even says at one point, "No shade, no shame. You do you, use protection." She's like, but that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I signed up for.
Right. And she also turns out to be a better, I don't want to use the word pimp, but turns out to be a better pimp than Stephanie's, who is a super fucking scary guy, kind of doing the classic, like you've seen in a lot of movies. Seems like he's all cool and chill, and then turns out he's a really bad dude.
Played by an absolutely incredible, as always, Coleman Domingo.
He is so good.
I love Coleman Domingo. I have loved him for years. And every time he is in something, he is bringing every ounce of everything to the table. And he is a stellar, incredible actor, magnetic. I I love him. I want to see him in everything. He's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, it's really great because he and Taylor Page are reuniting in Zola because they were also in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and they're amazing in that too.
They are amazing in that, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And Taylor Page is great in this. Taylor Page, I am so into. So Taylor Page was the best thing about the movie that I absolutely did not like, Boogie, but she was luminous and she is great in this, and she's great. She is also great in everything. And so is Riley Keough. I'm just going to go on a gush fest. I love all the actors in this. And Jason Mitchell, I love him too. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to disagree with you about the Riley Keough angle. I did not find her performance to be stellar.
I said she is a stellar actress.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
I did. But no, I do like this performance. I think it's quite good.
I think it's interesting that I mean, she's definitely the character Stephanie is playing a part, but I think she's transparent in a bad way, like from the beginning. Like she's just totally shady. Although, like we were saying earlier, she does seem like she's being coerced. So maybe it's not, maybe there's just some other things going on that we're not aware of, because the movie does not delve into her backstory at all. It doesn't really delve into anybody's backstory, really. It's just kind of about, this is what you said we were going to do. This is what actually happened. The end.
See, I disagree with you. I think this movie is much smarter, much more subtle. It's exploring things on a subtler level, and because it's letting the wild zany story unfold and it's letting that take center stage, but it's also dealing with a lot of other things. Like it's dealing with the fact of an unreliable narrator, and because it shifts from Zola's perspective to then Stephanie's perspective. And I think she is the unreliable narrator because it has her in like this suit jacket. And she's like, I don't even know what Backpage is. And she's like, I'm a Jesus fearing woman. I love Jesus. And like, it's very clear that she's, unreliable in that case. But it's also dealing with other things. Like Zola gets sexually assaulted when Coleman Domingo's character X it has a run-in with some rivals, and he's basically using Zola as like a distraction, which is really gross, and she gets sexually assaulted.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's also dealing with racism in the sense of Stephanie, who is a white woman, using Black vernacular and using things like, hey, sis, and, and which is something that I've heard many Black women say, do not call me sis if you are not Black. And, she's kind of taking on that, which she probably shouldn't be doing. And there's also a very brief scene showing police brutality where we see two cops beating someone up as they're driving by in Tampa. So I think this is actually dealing with a lot. There are a lot of upshots showing Zola's ass as she's dancing. Which seems really interesting because Janixa Bravo is a woman and she's the director and she also co-wrote this. And so it's like, what's going on here? And I think it's using an exploitative lens or seemingly exploitative lens and gaze to look at that and to look at how the male gaze is so toxic and destructive. So I think it's actually it seems like it's kind of, I don't want to say a superficial story, but it seems like it's just like, whoa, it's this wild, zany story. But I actually think it's doing a lot more under the surface.
I think that I would agree with all that in principle. I just wasn't very moved by anything that I saw on screen, partially because Riley Keough's character is she's hard to take, which is not really her fault. But it's just kind of strange to say about a movie that's only 87 minutes long, but I found it kind of slow. Like I kind of knew what was happening. And I don't think that the movie is really trying to it's not trying to not play its hand early. But, when the dumb boyfriend, whose name I can't remember, played by, I remember the actor's name, Nicholas Brown or Braun, Derek.
Is that Derek?
Derek, yeah. When he makes friends with the guy at the hotel, like you immediately know, okay, well, this is going to end badly. And then, of course, it does. You were talking about when Zola is sexually assaulted, it's by the guy that Derek meets at the hotel because he's trying to steal their money. But I guess because I don't know, it didn't move me much. I don't think it's bad, but I was just kind of like, I just kind of kept waiting for everything to happen because I was pretty sure I knew it was going to happen. The one thing that did surprise me is when they showed up at, I guess it's X's house at the end. That's what
yes,
they call Coleman Domingo, because she doesn't, Zola says in the beginning, it was 48 hours before I even learned this guy's name. But then she doesn't tell us what his name is. When they showed up to his beachfront property with his girlfriend, his wife, whoever she is, I don't know, who pulls a gun on them earlier and kind of pretends that she's Russian. I mean, it's very, that surprised me. It didn't surprise me that the woman was there, but like that his grand palatial home was there.
I'm not surprised because he takes all her money.
Well, yeah.
He gives her like nothing.
Yeah, but also she wasn't earning very much before Zola got onto the scene to begin with.
That's true.
So,
that is very, very true. Yeah. And that is interesting to see. Zola is a much better, much savvier businesswoman in sex work than she is. And then, and much more so than X is. And I love that he's like, you think you can do my job better than me? And she's narrating and she's like, yep.
Yeah.
And he like gives her a cut because he respects her, sort of. But then it's really sad when Stephanie like whispers like, I have some too. And he's like, you get fed, you have clothes. Like, it's so disgusting.
Yeah,
it's really creepy. I find her character as grating as it is, and I think Riley Keough does this character really well because she also does a kind of similar character, sort of, in American Honey, and I love her in that too. But I think there's more going on in the sense of there are these moments where her character really has a tenderness and a vulnerability, and she's crying and she's like, I didn't know I was going to get mixed up in this either. And she's full of shit because Derek reveals later, he's like, Zola, is this what you signed up for? Like, angry because he thought that Stephanie stopped doing sex work. And Zola's like, does it look like I'm signed up for this? No. And he's like, oh, so you conned another friend into this? And so clearly she's done this shtick before. Right. So even her vulnerability, even her moments of those are probably bullshit and just an act. Yeah. So I find her really interesting. And I think Zola is really funny, really interesting. I love the use of narration. I love the use of freeze frames so we can get her thoughts on describing things. And I think it's a really great way, especially because this film stems from a Twitter thread, 148 tweet thread, which I think is amazing. But yeah, and so I think it's kind of a great way to kind of use that story and weave it in with narration and freeze frame. And I love Mika Levy's score. I love her compositions in general, and I love the score here, that it has that kind of like almost like a twinkly, like almost like magical fairy tale element until it doesn't and things go awry, and then it's more electronic. And I just think it's great. I also really love the cinematography and the use of mirrors in this, and that this is filmed on, I think, 35 millimeter.
I'm not sure what it was filmed on, but it does look good. It looks really good.
Yeah, but it has kind of a graininess to it that kind of lends to the kind of seedy, gritty feel that's going on thematically.
But it also looks like film, whether it is film or not. It looks like film.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. But yeah, so I really liked this. I think it has great performances. I think in another director's hands, this would be a very different film, and a film I very likely might not enjoy. But I think there's a, like I said, there's a real, I don't want to say critical eye, but kind of on like commenting, like a social commentary, while also letting the kind of ridiculous, zany joyride, unbelievable road trip kind of unfold and not getting in the way of that. And I did not find this slow, and I was not just waiting to see what the next thing was going to happen. I went along with the ride, and I was intrigued.
Wow, we had two different experiences. Ooh.
Mhm.
I mean,
We
not
did.
uncommon on Spoiler Piece Theater. Although I did really, I think you're right about Taylor Page too. I think she's great. I really liked the way that she played Zola.
Mm-hmm. Her facial expressions while she's watching what's going on are just incredible. And they happen like right from the start. And yeah, like she's very shrewd. She knows what's going on. She won't take any shit. And I really, really liked watching her.
Yeah, I agree with all that too. I was going to say something else and I can't remember what it was. Oh, well. It's not the first time it's happened on Spoiler Piece, and it won't be the last.
Well, I will say, I think it's really interesting the way they meet, because they meet at her work. But the first thing Stephanie says is, "You have perfect titties. I love them." Right. And but she's giving her, this compliment, and Zola is very appreciative of it, and they're kind of gazing at each other. And I was like, "Ooh, is there a queer gaze happening?" And then the guy she's with, who's not X but some other dude, makes a comment that's gross. But I was like, "Oh, maybe there's some queer gaze happening here," but no.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I I'm not a fan of voiceovers generally speaking, but I thought this one was really effective. There you go.
I agree.
Well, partly because it's throughout the movie. It's not just it doesn't just pop up at the beginning, at the end, and frame shit. It plays a role in what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that. I also liked it when Derek jumped off the balcony and it was only 2 feet high. Because he's clearly not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Is that what we would say? I don't
know. I know, but I feel bad.
I do feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's just man. You got to run with a new crowd,
Yeah, he's not the brightest bulb. He's getting taken advantage of. Yeah. The last thing I want to say about this is I really liked the style of this. I found this a really stylistic film, and I really enjoyed what its style was. But I can understand this might not be everybody's film, and that's okay, of course.
Of course.
But I dug it. I was on board.
I'm kind of in the, down the middle, I don't know. See it if you want to, don't see it if you don't. But that being said, let's move on to I Carry You With Me. That's our second movie of the night. We all saw that one. It's directed by Heidi Ewing, who either has exclusively done documentaries until now or has mostly done documentaries until now.
No, exclusively. This is her first narrative.
Well, but it does have elements of documentary in it, as it turns out. So, because I remember
it's a hybrid.
It is a hybrid. I remember thinking
that's the word I use in my review.
Yeah. Well, let me just read you the one-line summary here on the old IMDb. Ambition and societal pressure propel an aspiring chef to leave his soulmate in Mexico and make the treacherous journey to New York, where life will never be the same.
True.
That is true. Not that simple, as things usually are not, but I just want to say this before I forget. The performances at the end are so naturalistic because it's the real guys. So anyway, but anyway, this is, I was really moved by this and found it really hard to watch in places, especially because of the, child left behind angle, which was very sad. Why doesn't somebody else go? I don't want to just be sad all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is definitely, it's a really moving film. And it is a really interesting format. This idea that we have this narrative aspect, which is showing these men when they meet, when they're younger, and some flashbacks to their childhood. We see them in their youth, and then we see them in present day, which is the documentary piece of these guys just living their lives. And we're seeing, what's happened in the intervening time, what they've accomplished, where they are now, and what their situation is, which, as Dave mentioned, is difficult because they came to the US as, undocumented, and they're stuck in this position where they've built just a fantastic life for themselves in New York City, but they can't go back to Mexico to see any of their family. And that is difficult because if they go back, they can't come back here. And it's just a really awful, shitty situation to see these guys in. But I found this movie really moving. It's got some just incredible cinematography, some really great performances by the actors that played the younger version of Yvonne and Gerardo, who are the main characters and subjects. It feels funny calling them characters and subjects because they are.
Right.
But they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Megan, you go. I already said I was moved. Blech.
So I've seen this twice. I saw this the end of last year during awards consideration, and then I rewatched this about a month and a half ago. And I loved it both times. I think this is an incredible film. I agree it's moving. It's very tender. I also agree that the cinematography is gorgeous. I think the editing is also fantastic. And I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Inat Sidi is the editor, who is a longtime collaborator with Heidi Ewing on her documentaries, also worked on this. And I think it's really interesting. In the press notes, Heidi Ewing said that the idea for this came out of a conversation with Yvonne and Gerardo, because she's been friends with both of them. They're close friends of hers, and she's been friends with them for a long time. And they went to see her when she presented a film at Sundance, or when she had a film in competition at Sundance in 2012. And they kind of revealed their lives, their full life stories to her. And she was like, holy shit, this is amazing. We have to make a film about this.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a documentary background, of course, as we said, but she knew she wanted to really show their younger years, like their childhood and when they met in their 20s. And so and that's when she got the idea to kind of do this narrative documentary hybrid. And I love the use of that. I think it's so creative and unique, and it's not something you see very often.
And it works. Don't forget that.
And it works so well. And it's funny because I was going to say it works seamlessly, but it doesn't quite, because there definitely is a shift. Like, it definitely feels like a documentary when the real Yvonne and Gerardo are there. And that footage she took over the course of a few years. And it's also all unscripted. So it is different because the rest of the film is scripted. And so it does have a different feel to it. It looks different. It feels different. It sounds different. But yet at the same time, it feels seamless in a really strange way. Yeah. And so even though you have these kind of like two halves of a film that are different, it works. It works so well because I think it's beautifully written, it's beautifully edited, beautifully shot. The acting is incredible. I think everything comes together really well. And it is so interesting thinking about it, because oftentimes when you have two actors playing the same role, it often doesn't work because you like one better, one does a better job, or one is more captivating or something. And no, I found all of the iterations of Yvonne and Gerardo equally, captivating and fascinating and intriguing and compelling. And so it really, really works so well. I think this is such a beautiful, unique film, and I just love it.
Yeah, I co-sign all that. I think the things that were most affecting for me, though, of course, were just the scenes when they were children, not when they were, young men. When
those are heartbreaking scenes.
Gerardo's dad takes him in the middle of the night and drops him next to a cornfield and is like, "This is what people will do to you because you're gay." Or people in town are calling. I'm not going to use the F word like his dad does.
But he even more explicitly says they'll kill you. Like yes, it's ominous and sinister, but he's like outright threatening him. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And then
it's super fucked up. It really is. Like, he's sitting there like berating him, and then just gets in the car and leaves him in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, and he has to find his way back home. I can't imagine how traumatizing that would be if you're a kid in that situation.
And the child actor, whoever that is, deserves an award for that scene. Oh my God. Because he gets the sups just right. The thing where a kid is crying so hard they go like that. And it made me just sob. And then, of course, seeing Yvonne saying goodbye to his son at the school. So, moving on for me.
It's really sad. Oh, Dave.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I talk about my bozos a lot on the show, so just and Henry is roughly Yvonne's son's age at that time. He's about 6 or 7, so it was just especially because the kids when they're that age they're little, and obviously, but it's kind of astounding sometimes how much they understand. I mean, there are things that they don't understand, but he doesn't understand that his dad's not coming back in a year. But he understands going to America to like earn money and things like that. So it's just, it's this combination of childhood innocence and reality that is especially heartbreaking. And then, the hug, and then later you see how his son just like walks off and is like, "Bye, Dad." And that's the last time they saw each other. It's just, whew.
Yeah, now we see him, fully grown. There's photos and FaceTime, and he's, talking about how he went to try and get, his visa so he could travel to the US, and he's denied, and that's just horrible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how useful I'm going to be talking about it, except to say that it's deeply affecting and wonderfully made, and I was I was a big fan. I wish I'd seen it at awards time last year, because it would have been for sure on my end of year list. But oh well, I didn't get to it. So
that's okay. It happens. It was on mine. I think it was. God, I hope so. I don't know what's wrong with me if it wasn't. Yeah, I mean the children elements are really, really rough. I mean, seeing the separation between Yvonne and Ricky, his son, it's really hard. But there's another, and Gerardo's childhood flashback is so brutal, but Yvonne's is also really upsetting too, in that his mother is sewing a quinceañera dress and he wants one and he asks for it, and his mother's like, "I've told you before, it's just for girls." And then when no one's home, he puts on the dress, and his best friend Sandra, who is the most supportive and lovely person, puts makeup on him. And then his father comes home, and his father looks like he's a monster, and he's like so full of rage, but he's like just quietly seething and like, "Take that off," but then he like grabs his hair really rough, and it's just awful. And there are those moments, but there's so many moments we see of each of them enduring homophobia, whether it's from their fathers or whether it's from harassing men on the street who harass Gerardo and his friend who's a drag queen. There's also a sales clerk who's like, "We're closing up now."
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't want them there. So there's that microaggression. There's Paola, Yvonne's ex-girlfriend, who he has son Ricky with, and he knows that if she finds out he's gay, she's going to keep Ricky from him. And she does. And it's just awful. And so we just keep seeing them experience this horrific homophobia. And there's a scene when they're in New York City, and there's a montage of them celebrating during Pride, and they're kissing, and the Empire State Building is lit up in Pride colors. And in the narration, Yvonne says something to the effect of like, "We were told we'd have to be in hiding, but can't we just live? I just want to live." And it's like, oh, and it's like, there's so many layers of gutting in this film. The fact of being, gay men, the fact that they're, Mexican and they're undocumented and they can't go back home. And there's that scene where they're talking to the immigration lawyer, and Yvonne now has a restaurant and he has all these employees, and he's like, "I don't want to close my restaurant." He's like, "I don't want residency. I don't want citizenship. I'm not asking for anything." He's like, "I just want to be able to go to Mexico and visit my son and family." And she's like, "No, because you're undocumented now." And it's just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. I had something I was going to say. I just can't, I cannot pull my thoughts together after having seen this. So
that is a testament in and of itself of how emotional it struck a chord with you and how moving it is.
Yeah, it's really moving. I think the only thing that I would add is that I got so wrapped up in the narrative part of the film, I almost had a hard time connecting with the real life portion, which is weird to think about. But like when it transitioned, I was like, on paper, I like am really moved by this, but I feel like I had more emotional investment because I spent more time with the characters than I did with the subjects.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen. For sure. I had kind of a different reaction, I think, from both. We all had different reactions. It was like, I was watching it and I was like, boy, this part feels so different. I wonder why. It's just like, I'm a fucking idiot, just like, but I still enjoyed it, but I was like, I do remember thinking, like, wow, these performances are so naturalistic. And then I paused it and was like, oh, this is because this is a fucking documentary now. It's like, what a dum-dum. But, this is one of those movies that's so good, but I don't know if I can watch it again because it's just every moment there's some kind of, even when they're happy, they're sad, So.
Yeah, every joy is tinged with pain.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ivan even says that. He says he feels trapped in a cage because he can't go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that he says that explicitly because earlier in the film, when he's in Mexico, there are a couple scenes, one where he's asking his boss if he can cook in the kitchen rather than cleaning the kitchen because he aspires to be a chef. And then he's also talking with Sandra in another scene. And there's windows, the bars of a window that are in the foreground and he's in the background. So it looks like he's in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that visually. And then he explicitly says it later, even though he's, got the quote unquote American dream. And yeah, I think there's also a really interesting commentary in the American dream too, because in the narration, he talks about how memories come in flashes and you think your dreams are going to be fast, but the American dream takes a really long time and it took years.
Yeah. I also appreciated, by the way, how a lot of the characters said just explicitly, they hate us. Meaning
yes.
They hate Americans hate Mexicans. I really appreciated that being spoken out loud at least 3 times, maybe 4 or 5. Just because I think that we need to shine a light on how much Americans hate other cultures, but still appropriate all their shit. So,
yeah, definitely racist and xenophobic. We are.
Well, I mean,
as white people, as Americans, yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then these Ivan and Gerardo, they start their own restaurant and they employ like 80 people and they can't go back to Mexico. It's like that doesn't even. He's like, by all accounts, like they've accomplished the American dream as we as Americans would judge them. And still, that's not enough. Like they're still undocumented, so like we can't let that slide. Even though they own a restaurant, employ 80 people, it's like, what more could you possibly ask for someone under your standards? Your ridiculous, stupid standards.
To be white.
That could be.
Yeah. I actually am really glad they showed their scenes because they come separately to the U.S. and I really love those scenes and how harrowing they are and dangerous. And it really, Evan, I don't know if it reminded you of this, but it really reminded me of Identifying Features and how just awful it is for people to cross the border, like physically
dangerous.
Awful it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really loved those scenes.
Yeah. They were harrowing.
Yes. I know. It's awful.
Well, on that note, Megan, it sounds like you have another thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do. I just wanted to say my favorite scene, and it's one that has just stuck with me, and I think it's so beautiful, but also really sad, is when Gerardo is on his way. He's in a cab, and he's leaving home, and he's on his way to cross the border, and he, in the reflection of the rearview mirror, he sees himself as a boy, and he turns around, and no one's there, and there's something about that just gutted me and struck me on a visual level and an emotional level. And it was just really good. And that just is a testament to this film, just how many striking moments there are and how good it is.
Yeah. Evan, any final thoughts?
No.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something completely frivolous. F9, the Fast Saga.
Or Fine, as I like to call it.
Fine. Yes. That's what F9, the Fast Saga. I mean, how are they going to keep naming these things? What are they going to call F10? Fen? I mean, to use your...
Who knows?
Anyway, so I don't really have a lot to say about this. I don't know how you feel, Megan, but I will... I'll read the IMDb thing. Cypher, without explaining who that is, by the way. Cypher enlists the help of Jacob, Dom's younger brother, to take revenge on Dom and his team. And Evan, you've seen all of the Fast and Furious movies except this one, right?
I haven't seen 2, but I've seen every other...
Megan, what about you?
I've seen all of them except for Tokyo Drift and maybe the second one. But no, I think I saw that one too. So I think just Tokyo Drift.
You're not missing much.
So my question is, does Dom's younger brother show up in any of the other movies?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Oh, I here's something that I thought was interesting though. They're really kind of cluing you into how old Dom actually is, because the movie opens up in 1989 and he's like 18 years old. So Dom is almost as old as Vin Diesel. You know, Vin Diesel's like what, 54 or something like that.
Something
So
like
that means that Dom is at least 50, which I didn't.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, I didn't think that you had 50-year-old, leads in action movies unless it was Liam Neeson. So there you go.
Yeah, he kind of had
I
the
was just
market.
going to say Harrison Ford.
Right.
Yeah, Liam Neeson.
I guess I mean
now Bob Odenkirk.
I guess I mean explicitly like talking about how old the character is.
That's fair.
But anyway, so this fucking wacky adventure is Cypher, Charlize Theron returns. Mr. Nobody, we never actually find out what happens to him, do we?
No, just that his plane crashed and they got the transmission. And so they go to the plane to try to take out some device in a chest and in like a suit and a briefcase that he wanted them to have, but he's gone. And you never, we never hear from him.
I'm pretty sure he's probably alive because
I'm sure.
Although given how they've killed other characters and brought them back. I don't remember the character's name, but he dies in Jason Statham blows him up in one of the movies, and then
are we talking about Han?
We're talking about Han. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because Han dies, Letty dies. Yeah,
and they're all
we
back.
need is for Gal Gadot to come back, and then we'll just come full circle.
Thank you. That's what I said. I said before this came out, I'm like, why don't we just bring Gal Gadot back? Just like bring her back too. Everybody's coming back from the dead.
Wait, she's in the first one, right? Wait, which one is Jan?
No, she's in 5 and 6 for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I beg your pardon.
The good ones, the ones I really like.
So
that's peak franchise.
I'll just mention really quickly and then get this out of the way that John Cena plays Dom's younger brother, Jacob. And John Cena, despite having been a really famous WWE star and tough guy and all that stuff, is about as threatening as Milk in this movie. I mean, there's just absolutely nothing remotely scary or devious about him.
Is he threatening in the way like Milk is threatening to someone who's lactose intolerant?
No, not in the way that it will just like upset your stomach or maybe put you in the hospital for a couple of days. It's kind of like, he's a non-presence. There's nothing to him.
See, and I slightly disagree. Ooh. So I do. No. But listen. So I agree with you. He's not threatening in any way, shape, or form. So, and as I said to you when we were walking out of the theater, I was like, he's either the worst villain or the best, because he's the worst because he's not threatening and he's like nothing. Like, who cares? But he's taking this performance so seriously.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He's matching Vin Diesel taking it so seriously, which is what makes the franchise so amazing.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing about it is it's ridiculous and absurd, but God damn it, if it wasn't fun, Oh,
it was a blast.
So, I mean, Evan, there's a scene when Vin Diesel is being surrounded by, I don't know, 20, 25, 30
more
soldiers that are in Jacob's employ. And he grabs a couple of chains hanging from a concrete ceiling and pulls the whole building down on top of all of them. I mean, wow. I mean, this movie.
And then he almost drowns, but Letty saves him somehow.
Like Letty just decides, she's like, fuck it, I'm going to dive in the water and the rubble and hope.
But how did she get in there? Because that door was locked. I just want to point that out.
Maybe he tore off the door also. I'm not sure. And then, of course, this movie has the classic story. It's just like fucking John Cena, that everybody's captured. John Cena has the upper hand, and then he doesn't kill any of them on screen. It's just like,
which is a mistake.
We've all seen any James Bond movie or Austin Powers at this point. I mean, But
I want to talk. I was gonna say I want to talk about some of the other amazing stunts that are happening. And I know this is in the trailer, but I cannot get enough of this. It's when they're driving through landmines.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And Letty, for some reason, is on a motorcycle riding through landmines. I'm not quite sure why, but she is.
She doesn't hit me though. So
she doesn't. And yeah, so good for her. But she's driving fast enough. She's driving over 80 miles per hour because apparently that's what you need to do to avoid landmines somehow.
It's the delay.
Yes.
The delay in the trigger.
Yes. Yeah, it is. No, but I know I'm teasing, but still, it's still ridiculous nonetheless. But anyway, but she kind of somehow her motorcycle ends up like in the air, like it goes up in the air, and she gets knocked out of the motorcycle. So she's like flying through the air, and then Vin Diesel like turns the car around. So she slams her body on top of the car, and that's him catching her.
Yeah. For a movie that talks about how much it, science works, because you got Ludacris in there being like, science, like he's fucking Thomas Dolby. It really doesn't pay attention to physics or metallurgy or anything like that,
or broken bones.
Well, that's what I mean. If Letty hit the hood of that car with the force that she was traveling, she'd probably be a puddle on Main Street. I mean,
yes.
But then there's the scene when Dom like jumps off the hood of the car as it's crashing into the side of the mountain road, and then he just rolls over a couple times. He's like, "Whew, no bruises on me."
Yeah.
Just brushing him off. But then I do have to say, it's kind of a meta moment because I've seen people talking about this. What's his face? I can't think of his name. Tyrese. Oh, yeah. And he's talking with them about how he's like, I have no scratches on me. He's like, I was shot at by 30 different people and I don't have a scratch. It doesn't make sense. And he really thinks they're invincible.
Yeah.
I love Tyrese. Tyrese might be one of my favorite characters in the franchise. I always go back to that moment. I think it was the sixth one where he's like, I got a tank on my ass. His oversized reactions to like everything that's going on is just fucking hilarious.
Well, to put things to rest, Evan, they do go to space in this one.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Roman and Tej go to space.
You missed it. You missed it.
Just two of them.
Fucking A. I knew they were going to space at some point. How could they? That's I thought that was the final frontier for them. So who knows where they're going next?
In a Pontiac.
Well, like I said, I think they might do a Jurassic World crossover. So dinosaurs might be next.
Yeah. I also want to mention that they go to space in a Pontiac Fiero. So, yeah.
But I almost screamed because I was so excited they were going to space because I just want to say my roommate might be the biggest Fast and Furious fan, and he has been predicting this for like a decade that they're going to space, and they did.
I also want to throw out just how this movie decides to make some things sort of set in the real world and other things not at all set in the real world. Like there's a scene, Evan, when Ramsey, the computer genius, has to drive a truck, and she admits, I've never driven before. I'm from London. I don't have to drive. There's the tube.
The tube. Yeah.
And so she gets in the truck, and then for about half the scene, she can barely drive the truck. Everything she does correctly is totally by accident. But then all of a sudden, she's a fucking master at driving the truck. So it's like,
well, no, I wouldn't say a master because she's still destroying shit.
Right. But I mean, that's kind of this movie's bread and butter, though. So it would be weird if she didn't destroy anything.
I know. It's great. I love it.
I always think that her character is like better than anyone. You think about Dom and Letty, and Mia shows up in this one. She wasn't in the last one. And of course, Roman and Tej. But I like Ramsey. I think she's kind of a hoot because she's just always like, no, I know the algorithm to this.
Well,
Natalie Emmanuel is amazing, and she was completely underutilized in Game of Thrones. So I'm really glad to see her, get a little more screen time and attention here because I think she absolutely deserves it. But yeah, I agree. She's great.
Yeah. Well, I've been wondering, how did they explain Han being alive?
Oh, Mr. Nobody. It was a setup by Mr. Nobody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, he staged his death.
Staged Han's death.
And where does Michael Rooker fit into all of this?
Oh,
they waste Michael Rooker.
Unless he shows up in the 10th movie as like the secret smart guy or villain or whatever.
Well, God, I hope so, because I love Michael Rooker.
He's only in a couple of scenes. He plays like his dad's mechanic / business partner from back in the day. So.
Yeah, by the way, I have to say, there were way too many flashbacks. I didn't give a shit about the flashbacks.
A lot of flashbacks in this movie.
A lot of flashbacks. I do appreciate that those were filmed on film, or they looked like they were filmed on film. But yeah, I just don't care. I don't care. I don't want a flashback. Like, let's just focus on the present.
Yeah. So.
It was very distracting. But What are you going to do?
Yeah.
But I had fun with this. Too. I enjoyed this a lot more than the last one, which I don't remember anything from.
I remember them driving through the building in Dubai. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. But wasn't that 2 ago?
That was 7.
That was 7?
The submarine. The submarine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's not the last one.
Wow.
They jumped the submarine and I don't know.
I don't know.
People had to work against them. He was like forcibly turned against them.
I remember now. I didn't see F8. I remember.
Yeah, because they're like, it's gone bad.
Yeah. I was like, Fate of the Furious, fuck that movie title. Oh, by the way, Evan, the post-credit sequence is Han showing up to Jason Statham's door and punching him in the face or something like that.
Nice. I'm about it.
Oh, and now Han has a surrogate daughter.
Right. This girl that he saves who is wrapped up in the device somehow with her DNA. It'll take too much work to explain.
Yeah.
And she's like a kung fu or karate master, which I'm like, ooh, that feels kind of awful in a stereotype kind of way for Asian women, but okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that aside, it was a hoot. So.
It sounds like it. Is. Yeah. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I really had fun with this. And I said this to you too. I said this to you too, Dave, that I was really glad that Jordana Brewster was back because I loved her so much in Random Acts of Violence. I think she gives an outstanding performance in that. And I wish I saw more of that caliber of performance in other things. Not that I expect, Fast and the Furious to be amazing performances per se. Although I will say...
She commits, though.
She does. I will say that, but that's not what I was going to say, actually. And I will say Michelle Rodriguez does, too, because I love Michelle Rodriguez. I always love seeing her, and I love seeing her in action roles. And she narrated and was in a documentary about stunt women, and she loves doing stunts. And it's very clear that she loves being very physical in film, which is cool. But no, I was going to say Charlize Theron is amazing, and I love her and everything. And I didn't really like her so much as Cypher in the previous film, but I think she's great as Cypher here. Like, she is just doing some scenery chewing, and she has some scathing eye looks that she's doing, like just judging people. And I was here for it, and I loved it. She was really relishing her villainy, and I loved it.
I also wanted to say the last couple of movies, I mean, I don't think you could ever accuse Vin Diesel of being out of shape, but he wasn't hitting the weights quite as much. All of a sudden in this movie, his arms are huge.
Oh, he's
again.
jacked.
It's like he went back. He's like, if I'm going to be in a movie with John Cena, I got to start doing push-ups, because there's one scene where they're shooting him from behind and you just see the back of his arm and his tricep is so big. It's like all I could look at. I'm like, Jesus, how can that guy's arm be that big? And also, it looks like Letty's been hitting the weights too, because Michelle Rodriguez, I mean, she always looks, like she's in really good shape, but she looks like she's like in really good shape in this. So I just,
they're stepping up their workouts.
Sounds like it's a pretty stacked cast in multiple ways.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about Helen Mirren's small role.
Oh yeah, she shows up in one scene she's played this character before, but I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the mother to Jason Statham and Luke Evans' characters. That's
it. Yeah. I'd forgot. I was like, why do I know this?
Yeah.
Well, I found her delightful in her.
She was fun.
Yeah, but this is fun. This is a fun film that's ridiculous and absurd. Made me laugh a lot.
Me too. But speaking of laughing a lot, maybe should we move on to Werewolves Within?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. We should.
I don't know how much you laughed or didn't laugh. It's supposed to be a comedy.
Supposed to be. Real emphasis there.
Yeah. Written by Mishna Wolf, who, if you haven't read her memoir, I'm Down, I would recommend reading that. This is based on a video game, right? If I recall correctly, an Ubisoft game or Ubisoft.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Do French people make good video games? I'm not sure. I've never played it, so I don't know.
Well, Ubisoft has some. They have some issues. There have been scandals about their comments on female characters. So.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the IMDb summary: feature adaptation of the video game where werewolves attack a small town. That's actually not so accurate.
That's not accurate.
That's not very accurate at all. Yeah.
There's a werewolf who is attacking people in a small town.
But we're actually not sure for a lot of the film if there is indeed a werewolf or not. And I really think it's a really interesting blend. It is a horror comedy, but it's also a mystery whodunit, which I really like.
It's more of a whodunit than it is anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
And I liked Josh Rubin's previous film.
Scare Me? Scare Me is amazing.
Yeah, I didn't love this so much, although it did
Me neither.
move relatively quickly at least.
Okay, well, I stand alone because I really like this.
I mean, it was.
I wanted to like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was enjoyable enough. But I think that the pushing the whole like right wing. I don't need to see more right wing crazy people even played for laughs, because I see them enough in the real world. So, Michaela Watkins and her husband, whose name I can't remember. Although when he does get his hand bitten off, I did think that was funny. But I don't know. Who wants to take the lead on this? Because there's actually kind of a lot going on in this movie, despite it being on the surface kind of a fluffy werewolf movie.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it a fluffy werewolf.
No, it's definitely not fluffy.
I said on the surface.
It's pretty shaggy.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Boo.
I mean, I think that the main thing here is Sam Richardson's the main character, Finn. He is a park ranger and he's moving to this small town in Vermont, I believe. He's been reassigned there. And he's staying at this like bed and breakfast where all of the like action pretty much takes place. It's like a very small town, and he meets Milana Weintraub, who is the resident male person, and they bond and become friends. And then like they kind of become like it's like kind of a buddy movie with them while all this like drama is unfolding around them of like, people being attacked and the power gets knocked out due to an avalanche that knocks out the road and knocks out the power. And then it just, becomes one of those like everybody's locked into the hotel together and like who's the werewolf because people start dying and what's going on and, who's on whose side, what's going on. That's kind of like the gist of the movie.
But there's actually more than just werewolf death. I mean, the townspeople kill each other. Michaela Watkins kills a townsperson.
A couple.
Yeah. The guy who wants to do the pipeline or whatever the fuck it is, Parker. Yeah, he shoots somebody with a bolt. But as it turns out, should we just say who the werewolf is? I mean,
this is spoiler.
By the way,
piece.
it is spoiler piece. I just want to say I predicted it right from
I know,
the start.
yeah,
and I never do. I was excited.
Really disappointed when Milana Weintraub turned out to be the werewolf because it was just so predictable.
Well, she does say that she prefers to be in the woods. It's her natural place or something like that. So I was like, as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, it's her.
Well, and I also appreciated, though, how she was content to let the townspeople kill themselves so she didn't have to do the work. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, that was good. I did like
She's
that.
like, I got food on ice for the rest of the winter, or whatever she says.
Yeah, I think she does say that exact line.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It felt like it kind of wanted to be Knives Out-ish to me, but it's not.
Yeah, it felt like it was kind of paying homage to a couple different. It kind of had a little bit of like an Edgar Wright-esque like editing here and there, and kind of like the like goofy Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz like buddy comedy, but also like horror and monsters, and a little bit of like Jaws mixed in there with like the guy Flint, like the crazy hunter and he's kind of like the Robert Shaw character in a way. Like he's like the kooky guy, like, oh, maybe we'll hire him to hunt the wolf since he's one of those like cuckoo hunter guys who shoots people who trespass on his property. But for me, the most part, this really just felt like dinner theater, which is kind of funny because one of the characters makes a comment about being at like a murder mystery, like a dinner theater murder mystery. But I think...
Yes, Joaquin!
Right.
Yeah. But I think my issue with that is that it's too zany. Like it's too chaotic for me. And like all of the characters are being zany, but they're being different kinds of zany. And that's why it didn't work for me, is that I feel like all of these characters are operating in like different movies or different genres, and they, for me, just didn't coalesce into anything cohesive. And I feel like that also disrupted like the rhythm of this being a comedy. I'm like, these people are over here doing their wacky thing. You know, we've got the gay couple, and we're, you know, we're supposed to like be this kind of like laughing at them being kind of like hoity toity, but that's not even really very, I don't know. I just didn't find this funny, and I really wanted to, because initially, like the opening couple of scenes, I'm like, okay, this could be really funny. I'm enjoying the like cheekiness of like the murder, like when we see that guy who's killed in the forest, and like we get a little bit into like the plot, but for me, it just didn't go anywhere.
Megan?
So I disagree with everything. But that's great that we have different opinions, of course. I didn't find this funny either, but that to me is not a detriment to the film, because I often do not find comedies funny. So for me, the comedy elements didn't work, but I didn't care. For me, what worked is, does it work as a mystery? Does it work as kind of a zany madcap mystery? Yes and yes. Does it work as a horror? Yes. So for me, it definitely did work. And I think the reason it went, and I see what you guys are saying, and it definitely had also for me kind of a feeling of, and you were talking about, Dave, you didn't want to see any more conservatives, and it had very much a feel of kind of The Hunt, which I could not stand. And so I did not really enjoy that element of the film. Having said that, though, I think the reason it works so well is because Sam Richardson's performance is
he's so
great.
Good.
He's so good, and he's really anchoring the film here. And I think because of him, and I think his chemistry with Milana Vintrub, it really works. And I love the two of them together. And I love her performance too. I think she really works as well. And so I think because of the two of them, everybody else being kind of zany and weird and different, I didn't mind it. I actually think it kind of worked, because small towns do have eccentric characters that, you know, is kind of a staple in stories. And so I was okay with that. And I also enjoyed their two different paradigms are kind of pitted against each other in the end, because there's hers that's very cynical, and she's like, you know, these people are backstabbing and they're two-faced and they're jerks, and he's like, no, I'm a nice guy. And he legitimately is like, he's not like, you know, quote unquote nice guy where he's really like, you know, a scumbag to women, but seems like a nice guy. Like, no, he legitimately is a nice person who is compassionate and wants people to be happy and okay. And he has a very optimistic worldview, and it's interesting seeing those two pitted against each other. And so I really liked it. And I think the film is at its best when everyone is kind of locked in to the inn. I really, really enjoyed that. And it does kind of have a Knives Out kind of vibe, but I like Knives Out. And so I liked that here too. And I think Josh Rubin has a good eye as a director for pacing. And I really enjoyed this. What I didn't like, the one thing, and this is the one thing I have a problem with a lot of werewolf films, they're often really great until they get to the makeup. And I always have a problem with the makeup. And because werewolves just look weird. They don't look, to me, menacing. They don't look, I don't know. They just, so the makeup here didn't work.
She didn't transition all the way, though. She was still humanoid-esque.
Yeah, but there are quite a few werewolf films that are like that, where they don't transform fully into a wolf. Right. They're kind of this human-wolf hybrid. So, yeah, so I know what you mean, but that just doesn't work for me. Just the way it looks kind of and off to me.
Well, I agree with you both that Sam Richardson and Milana AT&T woman are great. And it's nice to see her, like I've seen her in a few other things, but I don't think I've ever seen her in a role this big. And she's got the goods, man. She can carry stuff. And I like her being a little bit more, I mean, reserved's not maybe the right word, but Sam Richardson is like using theater elbows, for lack of a better term. And she's more like, hey, you're using theater elbows, so I won't do that. So I just like the way they played off each other. But like you, I was disappointed when she did turn out to be the werewolf, because I saw it coming, and
Oh no, I wasn't disappointed with that. I said I was excited because I predicted it correctly. I was excited. Because I never predict things correctly. So I was glad.
Yeah, I just Scare Me or whatever it's called. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yep, that worked so well for me. I know a lot of people who really don't like that movie, but I loved it.
I know a lot of people who love it.
I loved it. And I think a lot of what worked with it was the sound design.
Yes.
Which I didn't, the sound design here was fine. But it wasn't really the focus. I don't know. I loved the scene though. I did love the scene when I was going to call him by his axe, Sam Richardson Finn was just throwing axe after axe after axe. That did make me laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I liked that bar that they were in. What was it? That
was a cool bar.
The Axe Den. That is a cool bar. I would hang out at that bar. Yeah.
I want to play Ace of Base. I want to play some pinball.
I actually
throw some axes.
I listened to the sign after this movie was over, so I guess it did have a positive effect on me in some way. So
very nice.
Anybody else have any closing thoughts on Werewolves Within?
I liked when Sam Richardson said heavens to Betsy. That was actually really well done. The way he was like looking at the fucked up generators, like heavens to Betsy.
Yeah.
He says it a few times too. It's great.
With like increasing like sense of urgency with this heavens to Betsy.
Yeah. I thought this was fun. It's too bad you guys didn't have as much fun as I did, but because I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, it was fine. I didn't dislike it, but it's didn't really blow me out of the water, which I was kind of hoping it would. But hey, you can't win them all. So
nope,
that's true.
Yeah. Well, let's recap, everyone. Megan, Zola, sounds like you would say see it.
Yeah, I would say see it.
Yeah, that comes out on July. No, it comes out on June 30th, next Wednesday. It's in theaters. It'll eventually be on demand. I would say, take what I said with a grain of salt because it just didn't work for me. So, I would skip it, but whatever. What do I know? I carry you with, I carry you with me. That comes out July 2nd.
No, it comes out in New York and LA June 25th, and then opens wider.
Yes. I beg your pardon. I would say see that, especially if you want to cry, gang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see it.
Definitely see it. Yeah. It's a must watch.
F9 comes out today in theaters. See it. Why wouldn't you?
Sure. Well, unless you don't want to go to theaters,
that's
which
true.
I can understand.
Double mask as I did when I went to the F9 screening. Or don't. It's your life. Live it. I got strangely libertarian there for a moment.
I know. Yeah, I know. Who are you?
Live it a quarter mile at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Nicely done. Thank you. And so then finally, Werewolves Within. It sounds like we got kind of a split ticket. That comes out today and in theaters. Megan's a go. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm a and Evan, it sounds like you were a nay.
Yeah. I'm a no.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, that just about does it for this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. We just told you where you can see all the movies, so if you're going to see them, listen to that part again so you make sure that we got it right. Hey, tell us if we got it wrong. We say this stuff all the time, but this movie's coming out, but things have changed so much because of COVID. If anything changes, let us know. I want to say thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Thank you for taking the huge task of editing away from us each week. You can find the podcast anywhere you can get podcasts. You can find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can find us on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you wanted to get in touch with us and tell us that actually the greatest werewolf movie of all time is Werewolves Within, you can email us at...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can email us at spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Thank you. And if you like the show, please do us a favor and rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. This week's exclusive audio is a viewer poll. You all patrons voted for The Miseducation of Cameron Post. That's our exclusive audio. And we'd also like to take this moment to thank our patrons.
Yes, we want to give a huge thank you to Bob Chipman, Charles Nash, Chris Wilkinson, Davida Margolin, Deirdre Crimmins, Christopher Jensen, Max Coville, Mike, Lord of the Sith, Rory Glynn, Sean Pensionar, Shauna Harris, Shelley McCaskill, Shona Glasgow, William Scahan, and Zach Pigeon. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
patrons.
Thanks, patrons.
And so, my name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies for some places. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld and on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
And we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.